What if I told you that every single molecule has its own secret language? That its shape isn't just random, but it's a code that dictates exactly how it's going to behave. Well, today we're going to learn how to crack that code. All right, so our investigation kicks off with a bit of a mystery. Imagine you're a chemist, right? And you see a graph that looks something like this. At first glance, it just looks like a bunch of squiggly lines. But this is actually a message. It's a kind of fingerprint sent directly from a molecule.
And this specific fingerprint? Well, it belongs to a molecule you know very well, water. You see, each one of these dips isn't just a line on a chart. It's a message. It represents a specific way that the water molecule is wiggling or bending or stretching. It's a secret code that describes its internal dance.
So, that's the big question, right? How in the world do we read this code? Or even better, how could we possibly predict what this looks like without ever stepping into a lab and doing the experiment? I mean, it seems like magic to be able to predict this graph just by thinking about a molecule. But it's not magic, it's chemistry, and the answer is surprisingly elegant.
The secret, it all lies in a concept we all kind of intuitively get, symmetry. Now, we usually think of symmetry in art or nature, right? But in chemistry, it's an incredibly powerful tool. The fundamental clue to how a molecule behaves is locked away in its shape.
Okay, let's see why this matters with two really simple molecules. Over on the left, you've got hydrogen, H2. It's perfectly symmetrical. You could flip it end over end and nothing changes. It looks identical. And that symmetry means its electric charge is spread out evenly, which makes it nonpolar. But now look at the right, at hydrochloric acid, HCl. It's kind of lopsided. You flip it and you can definitely tell something's different. This lack of symmetry creates an uneven charge distribution, making it polar. So just by looking at the shape, we can tell something absolutely fundamental about how the molecule behaves. Symmetry isn't just for looks, it has real physical consequences.
Okay, so to really use this powerful idea, we need a language to describe symmetry precisely. You can think of it just like learning grammar. We need to know the basic vocabulary, the elements of symmetry, and then the rules for how they work, which we call operations. So, let's start with the basics.
All right, the most fundamental concept here is something called a symmetry operation. It's just any action you can perform on a molecule, a turn, a flip, a reflection, that results in a configuration that is completely indistinguishable from where you started. So the molecule has moved, but to our eyes, it looks like it hasn't moved at all.
First tool in our kit, proper rotation, or CN. The idea is super simple. Can you find an axis, an imaginary line, to spin the molecule around, kind of like a top, so that it ends up looking exactly the same? If the answer is yes, you've found a rotation axis. Let's take a look at the ammonia molecule right in the center of this diagram. Just ignore the others for a second. See that axis going straight through the nitrogen atom in the middle? If you rotate that whole molecule 120 degrees around that axis, boom, the three hydrogens perfectly swap places. The molecule looks identical. That's what we call a C3 axis of rotation. Next up, we have reflection, which we symbolize with the Greek letter sigma. And this is exactly what it sounds like, holding up a mirror. If you can slice the molecule with an imaginary mirror plane so that one half is the perfect reflection of the other, well, you found a symmetry plane.
Let's go back to our old friend the water molecule, shown here on the left. Imagine a mirror plane slicing right down the middle, going straight through the oxygen atom. The hydrogen on the left reflects perfectly onto the hydrogen on the right. Simple enough, but it also has a second, maybe less obvious mirror plane, the flat plane that the entire molecule is sitting on, and both of those are totally valid symmetry operations.
So let's quickly recap our basic toolkit. We've talked about rotation and reflection. There are a few others that chemists use too, things like inversion and improper rotation, but the key idea is exactly the same. With just this handful of symmetry operations, we can fully and precisely describe the shape of any molecule in the universe. Pretty cool, right?
Okay, so now we have a language to describe a molecule's shape when it's just sitting still. But remember our goal. We wanted to understand that fingerprint, that spectrum, which is all about motion. So how does the static shape of a molecule influence the way it can move and dance? Let's find out. You know, there's a beautifully simple rule for this. For any molecule with n atoms, it has a total of 3n ways it can possibly move in space. Think about it. Each atom can move in 3 directions, x, y, and z. So 3 times n gives us the total degrees of freedom.
But not all of that motion is what we're looking for, not for our spectrum. We can break those 3n motions down into 3 main categories. First, the whole molecule can just move through space, left, right, up, down, forward, back. That's translation. Second, it can tumble end over end, kind of like a gymnast. That's rotation. And whatever's left over, well, that's the good stuff. That's the vibration.
For any non-linear molecule, like our water molecule, you can see from this table that we always subtract 3 for translation and another 3 for rotation. So if we take our total of 3n and we subtract those 6 kind of boring motions, we're left with a really simple formula, 3n minus 6. And this tells us the exact number of fundamental vibrations, the unique notes that molecule can play.
So let's apply this to water. It has 3 atoms, right? So n equals 3. We just plug that into our formula. 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 minus 6 leaves us with 3. So the theory predicts that the water molecule should have exactly 3 unique vibrational dance moves. Remember that number? 3.
Okay, we now have all the pieces of the puzzle. We have symmetry, we have the number of vibrations. The tool that puts it all together, the thing that acts as our Rosetta Stone to translate shape into energy, is a branch of mathematics called group theory.
Now, I know group theory might sound a little intimidating, but the core idea is actually pretty simple. It's a mathematical framework that helps us classify a molecule's vibrations based on its symmetry. And, this is the really key part, it lets us predict which of those vibrations will actually show up in an infrared spectrum.
So here's the game plan. Step 1. We identify all the symmetry elements of our water molecule, its rotation axis, its mirror planes, the whole deal. Step 2. We already know it has 3 possible vibrations. The final, crucial step is to use the rules of group theory to predict which of those 3 dances will actually be IR active. In other words, which ones are going to show up on our graph.
And here it is, the punchline. Using nothing but the shape of the water molecule, group theory makes this incredibly specific, testable prediction. It says that water should have exactly 3 vibrations that are IR active. 3 dance moves that will show up on our spectrum. Not 2, not 4, exactly 3.
And now, for the moment of truth. On the left, you see the 3 dance moves that the theory predicts. And on the right, that's the real-world spectrum we started this whole journey with. And what do we see? 1, 2, 3 distinct signals. It's a perfect match. The mathematical prediction, based purely on symmetry, perfectly matches the experimental reality. I mean, how amazing is that?
But look, this isn't just some cool party trick for water molecules. This connection between the abstract math of symmetry and the real-world behavior of matter, it's honestly one of the most powerful ideas in all of chemistry.
Using these very principles, chemists can look at a molecule's shape and predict if it's polar. They can figure out which chemical reactions are even possible, which ones are allowed or forbidden by the rules of symmetry. It's fundamental to understanding how atoms bond together in the first place, and it lets us identify unknown substances just by looking at their unique fingerprint, their spectrum. It's literally the key to designing entirely new materials with specific, desired properties.
So we're left with this really cool thought. We started with something as simple as a shape, and we ended up predicting a physical measurement with stunning accuracy. It just makes you wonder, right? If the elegant language of symmetry can unlock the secrets of a single, tiny molecule, what other invisible patterns are all around us, in our universe, just waiting for us to find the right language to read them?